the characters give you an opportunity to go into spaces that you may not want to, or you be scared of going on in your real life, because they might have different implications. But somehow, when a camera is around, I feel at home. I feel very comfortable. If a person has eventually picked up arms, there has been so many reasons behind that he has reached this stage.
Correct.
It is beautiful to talk about all of that, and then see him picking up the arms, and then you understand where it has come from. And I don't know if I want to be in that position. I like talking my heart out. I love it, and I hope I can do that for a longer time.
When we speak about UK exclusives, the artist in front of me is actually someone who just right after the Fame game on Netflix, we had spoken, and his character was a very fascinating one that definitely needed a lot of therapy for sure, but a very fascinating, layered character indeed. And many years later, I'm back with Lakshvir Saran as we dissect a very, very interesting series that has just come out on Prime Video called Lukkhe, and he's also starring in a Titan story as well. So
Yes.
two back-to-back very distinct characters, but fascinating ones nonetheless. So Lakshvir, it's so good to have you on Filme Shilmy once again, and
Thank you. Very happy to be back. Yes.
it's great to see you. And this time you have glasses on like me. So welcome to the judgment.
Yes. Time has taken its toll on my eyes.
Very lovely. Look,
Yeah.
let's begin with look here. Look, I genuinely really enjoyed the show. I think it was a slow starter. I think, like I said, like I was mentioning before the interview began, that the first two episodes were. It takes a bit of time in settling in before the action kicks in, but from the third episode onwards, it's pretty much go go go, and it really is quite an adrenaline rush, and it almost gives an idea or feels as though the viewer is intoxicated and high whilst watching the show. Now, as we describe it, obviously, and we will go into the themes of the show much later as well, but um, just your overall experience, I think, working on such a dynamic, sort of theme where you are almost an espionage, but at the same time, you're someone who is bound by love and family, and friends, so to speak. It's such an interesting quandary to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot going on with the character right from the beginning. I mean, I remember the first time I sort of read what the show was about, and things were narrated to me. It was only the first episode that was narrated, and I thought that was the whole show. Because there was so much that happens in the first episode itself. So I was like, oh, okay, okay, that's the whole show. And then later, when I get the script, I'm like, wait, all of this just happened in the first episode? And then what happens? And then the madness actually begins, as you said. And it's constantly, I mean, there's one thing after the other. There's no breaks. It's quite heightened. Even the edit is extremely fast. I mean, it doesn't give you a break. So I kind of gauged that language even while shooting, because I was having multiple conversations with Himang, the director, about how he sees it. Because I think that is very important as an actor to understand. Because if you don't understand the vision with which the show is being made, you'll probably go in the opposite direction and you lose half of the bits that you intend to keep. The first thing I think was very important for me to understand the language, and it's not an easy language, not specifically with my acting style, where I like to take my time and sort of find depth and work with pauses. No pauses here, hardly any pauses here. So, uh, so yeah, I mean, I took it step by step, focus on the scenes at hand, not get overwhelmed with the larger picture, and I just hope sort of it'll slowly come together. And I think it kind of worked.
Definitely, no, it really did. First of all, your Punjabi was, I mean, from me, mind you, I'm not a Punjabi, so I can't really say how well or it wasn't well in terms of the diction or whatever, because I don't know that. But from me, as
Mm.
someone who is novel to the Punjabi language but has heard it throughout the course of life, it seemed like you really worked on that. Um,
Yeah,
so I would love to
I
know
look,
about.
I learned the language. Yeah, I didn't know Punjabi at all. I mean, I had heard it because I'm from Delhi, so you cannot really not. I mean, there's no way you can ignore the language, but it's everywhere. Especially in the western part of Delhi, I think it's very prevalent. Uh, Even in college, across my high school, I often heard it, and but I didn't really uh, got a chance to really go into the language. Even the first film that I did, Meel Patthar, was a Punjabi film,
Right.
essentially Hindi and Punjabi. But my character spoke Hindi because he came from the northern part, from the mountains, from the hills. This was my first sort of opportunity to play around with the language, and yeah, man, I spent a lot of time learning, talking as much as I can. I started watching a lot of films in Punjabi, heard some music as well constantly, it was it is tricky to act in a language you don't know because I love improvising. That kind of helps me calm my nerves because I know that even if the text sort of slips away at some point, I have a greater understanding of the character and the situation to improvise enough to complete the scene itself, you know. Uh, and But when it's a new language, you have to stick to the lines. You cannot improvise. So that was one of the bigger challenges. And also, like, I am from Haryana. My family comes from Haryana, so I do have that Haryanvi tongue,
Right.
and it's very close to Punjabi, so that kind of becomes a hindrance because you quickly fall into the tonal shifts of Haryanvi, and you want to keep a check on that because I mean, there are two distinct languages, and you cannot really merge the two. So that was my worry constantly. But yeah, I guess it kind of worked out in the end.
No, it definitely did. And you know, I think let's talk a bit about the themes because I think it's such a big part of the series which we cannot avoid. Uh,
Yeah.
there's so many different strands of social themes here. You've got alcoholism, you've got substance abuse, you've obviously got trigger warning rape as well. th it's very hard to watch at times. You've also got childhood trauma. There's so much that's attached to it. These are themes which you have explored before, like in the Fame game, right? I remember speaking about it at length, and it was a very disturbed character. And I think the show's themes also touched on these several aspects as well. I think for you, Lakshvir, as an artist, when you have worked or have encountered such subjects before in the past, does that
Mm.
necessarily make the process uh not as discomforting because you've kind of उस गली से गुजर चुके हो आप, kind of a thing. Do you think that it gives a sense of extra kind of ease for you, as ironic as it sounds? Because obviously it's never easy to dissect such themes and really embody them in the show.
I don't think it's a particularly work specific thing. Like whenever, I mean, I've answered these questions before as well. I think these are things that we deal with in life as well. I mean, it's only a part of a story on a platform because it exists in the real world as well. If
Correct.
it didn't, then we wouldn't be talking about it or we wouldn't be making films about it. I mean, I know how I address it in life and what is my view towards all of these things and how carefully you need to deal with people who've gone through a certain amount of trauma in their lives. What then becomes my responsibility is to bring that sort of idea of how I would deal with it into the character. Because essentially, as an actor, what I've learned is the best way I communicate is through my characters.
Hmm.
That is one thing that I've learned and I figured out. And truly, it's the best way I can communicate. And so my attempt is always to bring that sort of empathy and that patience that I've understood as I've lived life to into my characters in a brief moment in time. And I think as long as that is happening and it's being accepted, I think that is a great thing.
No,
So yeah.
absolutely. No, I think I often do believe that, art mirrors reality and vice versa as well. So I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head when it comes to that. But um, it's not easy though, right? I think emotionally and mentally, it's for any artist to really encounter such themes and to essentially live that life in front of the camera, even if it is a fictional one. It's hard, isn't it? Like it's not easy.
100%. No, no, it's very difficult because you have to be vulnerable in that space, and you need to place a lot of trust in the makers, people who are around you on set. And I think the sensitivity with which they deal with all of this also sort of becomes very essential. Uh, do they hold that comfort space? Do they hold space for you to feel as vulnerable as you will have to for the scene? And I think whenever the scene works, or if you see that vulnerability on screen, it's only because people around that shooting space, they held that for me. I felt safe enough to be able to go into such spaces. um, and uh, and that's always the idea, as a professional actor. I can't say that, no, this is too heavy for me, I won't do it.
Of course.
I don't get to do that. It is my responsibility to compartmentalize what I'm feeling for the character, and not take it home, um, and still do justice to the scene itself, with as much depth as I can. And I think, I mean, there's obviously fun in that for me, because that's why I'm doing it. There is some part of it that probably in my real life heals when I go into such depths which I otherwise wouldn't in life. The characters give you an opportunity to go into spaces that you may not want to, or you be scared of going on in your real life, because they might have different implications. But somehow, when a camera is around, I feel at home. I feel very comfortable. I trust the camera to really see everything that's going on inside my mind, and truly listen. It's a great listener, the camera. It will not bother you. It will give you its full attention at all times.
Right.
Everything gets recorded. It's not like you've said 10 things and it'll miss out two. It'll keep those 10 things, and as really as it can. So what a friend to have in that sense.
Yeah. The camera never lies, absolutely. And
Yeah.
like what you said about people around you, I'm going to use that to talk a bit about the three forces actually of talent that were really close to you in terms of the character's proximity. You've got King, who makes his debut in the
Yeah.
series, and honestly, I think we were all extremely surprised. I honestly, do you know what? If someone hadn't told me this is his debut, I would have just assumed that he's been doing this for a while, and
Yeah.
that's how he sort of done things. So I think that was really good. Palak was very exceptional as well. I love Palak. I mean, I think she
No.
was brilliant. Obviously, you had Raashii Khanna, who was also, again, I have never seen her in this avatar ever. And I think the way God, I mean, she was so sharp and cold, but at the same time, you could also feel the simmering pain that she's going through. I mean, you were exceptional. I mean, there's no honestly, genuinely, you were so fabulous and you really held it well together because you were that glue of the story, right? You were the one essentially who was seeing what the viewers were seeing, right? So
Yeah.
it was really integral for us to see that. But coming back to my point about the people that you were around, um, a lot of high emotions with all of
Yeah.
them, right? And I'm pretty sure there must have been some sort of I don't want to use the word bonding, but there's some sort of like kind of like, sort of sessions where I'm presuming you must have spoken to a lot of them offset as well and behind the scenes just to kind of understand what they're like and maybe how your emotions as well as theirs can really come handy for the characters. Was there ever situations like that? And how important is it really, especially with someone like Bullock, for example, because the characters that you both have, it's almost like a trauma bond, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I found the cast very strange in terms of how everyone comes from such different spaces.
That's
You
it's
know,
true. It's
E-
really absurd.
everyone's extremely different as individuals, as artists. I think they're all very, very different, including me. I think we all are very insane kind of a mixture. And I truly, at some point, I was looking around in the reading, and I was like, how is this going to happen? How is this? How do we work together? But but how amazing it was, because I think everything started with intrigue and curiosity about each person, and so it happens every time. You sort of start associating, because so many it's difficult when you've known the actor from before, but when you don't know the actor, your initial associations are always with respect to the character they're playing.
Right.
So I started looking at King as Badnaam before I could ever see Arpan or who
Mm,
he is as a person. Same goes for Palak. Like I could see how Sanobar comes from a different world and Lucky comes from a very different world, and if not for the rehab, these two would have never met each other in their lives.
right.
Uh, you know, uh, Possibly same for me and Palak. I mean, the theater space that I've come from, and Palak has been here in the city, and she's been very privy to the industry as such. We would have never probably crossed path if not for Lukkhe in that sense. Um, and uh, and the sort of seniority and confidence that Raashii came with in terms of her craft and experience, I think that worked really well with the respect you would have for a police officer who works with that amount of integrity. So all of these connections happened, and I let them happen because it's the easiest way in. And then as you go along the shoot, you start getting to know the people behind these characters, and then they become family, they become friends, and then I avoid using all of those things because those are real relationships that I would like to keep outside of the show. But of course, more familiarity keeps sort of bringing more play within the characters as well. So if I become more comfortable with Rashi and Palak because I've known them for longer, I get to play a little bit more in the scene with them. So as the shoot goes on, you try and spend as much time as you can with them. Yeah.
Lakshmi, that sounds really interesting. And I think, look, I think coming together, you all seem to have had like this very interesting synergy. Like you said, it's almost dysfunctional, which I think is exactly what makes
Yeah.
sense for this whole ensemble. I love that. What I find really interesting though is that I feel like this whole male female trauma bonds seem to be a new thing, especially on Prime Video. For example, there was a show called Dal Dal which came out just before Look Here, and you had
Oh
Samara Tijori and Aditi Raval's characters that were
my
like,
God, so good.
I
Aditya
mean,
Raval, my God, and Samara, both of them are excellent. I met Aditya recently. I think I messaged him as well. I told him how good he was and how excited I am to watch more of his work. And even Samara, I think they're phenomenal actors.
yeah, and honestly, it's just a bit, a bit concerning as to why we're seeing a lot of these trauma bond type characters really surfacing on the streaming space. But also what I would like to really address here is that there's been a sudden shift and spotlight on Punjab as well and Punjab stories. Unfortunately, a lot of it has to do with crime and substance abuse and violence. And
Yeah.
I do wonder why, because Punjab is such a rich and vibrant state, and I'm pretty sure that there's other stories of strength and restraint and resilience that is also there, as well as its spiritual kind of backdrop as well. Why is it suddenly that we're seeing such stories about Punjab in, about drugs and about youths being killed and and the whole sort of warfare that's literally going on between the rap scene as well. Why do you think that is the case, Lakshmi? What has really contributed towards this shift in storytelling, particularly?
I mean, it could be multiple factors. I feel in our industry, we often what we do is that if one thing works in the past we've seen, we start making more of those things again and again, only because we feel like the audiences are responding to that, and that idea is always there. But I would like to believe that if you really, because I was watching a lot of Punjabi films and everything, if you really see the actual Punjabi cinema that's being made inside Punjab, they're talking about multiple things. And the conversation, there's a lot of conversation about farming. There's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of humor to be found in relationships and familiar hierarchy structures that are existing in Punjab. And I think those are also very much present. So it is up to us that what kind of cinema we want to watch. I do that for me as well. I don't it has never been the case that I've seen two films or one show and I've thought that, oh, this is how this shahar is like. oh, this is what the state is like. It's not. I mean, one or two shows are not going to define the whole state, especially in our country where everything is so vibrant.
Mm,
So I don't fall into such traps, and I hope that as makers we also sort of keep pushing ourselves to really talk about different things with respect to any particular state or community as well, and not stick to one thing because in our minds the audience have responded to it before and we think that it'll work again. I think that is an unfortunate thing, but that happens a lot. That happens way too much.
mm.
Um, like you start hearing already, like if say Dhurandhar has worked, now everyone will start thinking that maybe we need to write more scripts like that, and more of such films will work. And now you'll see suddenly more films coming in the future that will be around the same idea and everything. So that is unfortunate because you are streamlining your own imagination. You're really like sort of diminishing it. Uh, and that should not be the case, especially in a country which is so different culturally. Uh, and I hope that we tell different stories moving forward and not bank upon the past projects and whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah, true. But I do often think that this whole template of copy and pasting, I don't think, I mean, is it just an Indian cinema thing? Because I know there was a point in time when Disney animations would be recreated, for example, into
It's
live,
happening everywhere.
you
It's
know?
with Marvel as well. I mean, you see
Yeah.
everywhere there is. I mean, the superhero can change, but it's the same thing over and over again. And it happens even with respect to. I just saw Michael recently,
Mm,
and again the trope of a father that is violent, that is abusive. Um, Being pushed to a point where of no return. Uh, and I mean, there's another dynamic of the Jackson Five, which I felt could have been very interesting to watch as well. What happens to the four of them? What is their story? How they felt about Michael being the center of attention, and can we delve into that also? But there is a certain, I mean, tropes are everywhere, and we constantly keep pushing them as makers, but. I like it when we are not falling for those tropes and we are trying to do something different, or at least moving with honesty. Moving with what we feel should be the natural way of things in our story or in our situation. That is always more exciting to play rather than references of some sort. You
right.
know.
True. And I think what I really wanted to talk about in Look Here was, and I think also because you've played characters which, in a way, expose and confront at the same time toxic masculinity. Uh, I think Look Here really beautifully does it in so many ways, where even the so-called alpha males, the top dogs, there is a simmering vulnerability within them, which I think the series explores beautifully as well. I remember in Fame Game as well, there are sort of elements to your character which has a bit of a toxic masculine strain to them as well. Why do you, I mean, how would you sort of explain and express your the idea of actually dealing with toxic masculinity on screen as well? And it's something which we've all grown up with, even in schools as well. Now even to an extent, it still kind of exists, and sometimes it isn't even in your face, but it's subtle things which kind of showcase its presence in our society today. So what exactly was your approach like, I think, in dealing with that subject in particular?
I think my character should speak for itself in terms of how I have treated Lucky as a person who is not going to pick up the gun and just start shooting people, and is just not going to be angry. He's going to sit, learn, and listen. And I think that is a very important factor that people are missing out on. Empathy is dying each day as I look around. Emotional intelligence doesn't seem as exciting as probably vengeance or the idea of revenge does. These are all things that you have to constantly battle. I have to battle it in my world, in my real world as well.
Mm.
And when I get an opportunity to sort of be on screen, play a character, then I what I try to do is I sort of try and bring this empathetic idea of looking at the world, of some patience, kindness, and principles of just of being there for another person without judgment and not reacting. All of those things are very essential, uh, even in any kind of relationship within a household or outside in society. So uh, it is going to be a very big fight because people are very excited about hyper masculine characters. uh, is they're doing very well in terms of numbers, but but there are enough people chasing that, man. Let me chase the other side. Let me try and bring characters in front who are probably who have their feminine side at least in check.
Mm.
At least they acknowledge it, and it exists, because I find, and I've always struggled with this feminine and masculine anyway. Like, I don't know what is what, because
Mm.
if I'm not being very physically proactive and being mentally present, then is it what? Is it not masculine now? Is it feminine now? I mean, I find this very funny.
Mhm.
I don't understand all of this. I just feel that it's again the same thing. Let's stop making brackets out of people
Right.
or characters. I mean, there are the times when Lucky also picks up the gun. Either, either he's also feeling anger, but he recognizes that it's just not enough to feel and express anger. It's also important to understand it. So let's reach that stage. Let's not stop at just expressing anger, because it's exciting to watch. I mean, just because you express anger, there can be consequences. And can we then talk about the consequences? Or can we at least address them, or at least realize that there are consequences? Can we go till that depth? Or are we going to stop early? So that is essentially the battle, even when it comes to toxic masculinity and whatever we talk about. It's about dealing with emotions, it's about communicating. And we see around us that men, it's very difficult to communicate. It hasn't been easy. Like, I have had many very healthy female friendships that have taught me how to communicate, the importance of communication, and how much that has helped me as an individual. You know, so yeah, I will always lead with that idea. I would always, in my characters at least, that nuance will always be present. Uh, I will not just stop at being angry. I will go further beyond.
Absolutely wonderful. No, very true. And I think it's a balance though, because I feel like there are some pseudo woke sections of society that are repulsed by such representations. And I get it, it's alarming, but I think that's the whole purpose of that concept anyway, is to repulse you, is to evoke that reaction. But then, when there's that section that tries to shut down art, but isn't the purpose of art to start the conversation anyway? So it's like, where does one necessarily draw the line? Because
Yeah, I
obviously,
mean,
you're
see, the
gonna have,
gaze is
yeah,
the gaze is important. I mean,
right.
expressing anger is a very real thing. It exists in society. Men often subdue so many emotions that eventually they are just angry beings, and it's only fair for them to express that at some point and show that that expression is a very real thing. It's not just for shosha and whatever. But then if we start celebrating it,
Mm,
then it becomes tricky. So that gaze also needs to be there. Like, that kind of nuance has to be present, that it's not something to be celebrated.
right.
We have to look a little further ahead than that. So
Mm,
so that is what the case is, because otherwise, if we make it so simplistic, and especially in our country where everyone anywhere, a hero is a hero, and we all follow the hero, at what point will if only the men who are picking up arms and shooting other men are getting celebrated, and people are getting excited about that, at what point will we stop?
mm. It's interesting because I'm of the belief that it's nice to have a Prem from Barjatya, and it's also equally very interesting and fascinating to have a Ranvijay Singh Balbir from Animal. You know, I come from
Mm.
that school of thought where I think it's kind of okay to have both. But the problem is it's become so polarized where if suddenly someone likes Durandar or an animal, they're suddenly labeled as misogynistic, chauvinistic, and God knows what, because I don't know why, because I think people have these rose-tinted glasses about society thinking these things don't exist. But what you're saying here also makes sense, that it's about looking beyond those aspects, right? And
Correct.
understanding the larger perspective behind what makes these individuals, and how can it
Exactly.
be prevented, right? Which is also a very fair point, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Because see, even in examples, we clearly see two sides. We
Yeah.
see, and we've made them sides, and that is my qualm. Like, why are we? What is this fascination with sides? Like, this is that extreme, this is that extreme. What
Yeah.
about? Is there a person, have you seen, who's lived in an extreme all his life? If a person has eventually picked up arms, there has been so many reasons behind that, that he has reached this stage.
Correct.
It is beautiful to talk about all of that, and then see him picking up the arms, and then you understand where it has come from. Or a person who was born around, say, a family which was constantly in the mix of say guns or whatever, and has reached a point where he just found love, and probably he's just sitting in front of a tree and enjoying his life. Whatever it is, he has gone through that journey. So why are we not talking about this? Why have we just skipped this whole middle bit where people
True.
shift, people
Yeah.
change? And why is that not interesting? Why is the result only interesting? And how long are we going to keep pushing these extremes and these sides? Because it's exciting to watch. I mean, we'll just have sides then, and no one will be in the middle. I'll probably be the only one looking here and there, and stand alone. I
Look,
don't know, but the idea is that I'm more invested and excited about how people shift, how ideas change, how one person goes from a certain being to another being, how what happens in the middle. That is what excites me. That is what I'm always intending on doing, and hopefully intending on watching also, if that those stories are made. So
yeah,
yeah.
no, rightly said, and I'm with you on that totally, absolutely. So I think you won't be on your own. You and I will be together, and we'll be like, yeah, the world's gone absolutely bonkers. So that's definitely how it would be. But interestingly, though, and I'm glad that you mentioned about your ethos. I feel like a lot of the roles you have played, I feel like redemption is a really big arc of all of them. I feel like a lot of them have been psychologically on the periphery, and I think that kind of goes in line with what you've just said about balance and also understanding the other perspective, because I think you've been in such a dark zone for a while now. I think in the sort of works that you have done, from the ones that I've seen at least, that I would like to clarify. But I think it's really nice now because you're kind of doing a role in the the Titan series. And there you're playing Gaurav Dhar, who is the first engineer at Titan
The
who was
Titan Arc.
hired to make the watch. So it's a really underdog kind of a story. It's something which is very distinct from what you've done before. So talk to me a bit about, having a bit of a breather from doing these really
Yes.
emotionally, mentally
Yes.
draining, dark stories. I'm sure this was like, Chalo, theek hai, this is my Rocket Boys moment.
Oh, that's funny because Jim is playing another part in.
Exactly. That's
But
exactly that's exactly why I mentioned it. Good. I'm glad you got the
yeah.
memo.
Yeah. No, yes, man. When I read that script and the character, I was like, oh, finally, something lighter. I mean, of course, there is still a lot of conflict, and a lot of times the scenes get a little like emotional because so much is on the line with the factory and making the watch itself at a time when no one cares about quartz watch, or who knows what a quartz watch is. Everyone's talking about mechanical watches. So, I mean, there is a lot of drama there, but of course, it's not uh, internally so bogging down as the other characters have been. And I have there's a massive lighter side to me. There is a bit of humor in me. There's a fair amount of light in me. So I am glad that that side is also now coming out, and I can express that part of me, and how much I enjoyed shooting for Titan, how much I enjoyed playing off Jim and the other actors, and it was extraordinary. I'm so excited about that show, and let's see how the world reacts to that.
No, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm glad that we actually get to see you smile, which is nice. You smile, which is great. Just wish we got to see
Yeah,
you do it often on screen, but no, it's good to know
yeah.
that. But look, Lakshmi, I want to rewind a little bit, right? And Fame Game, for example, was a big moment for you. Madhuri Dixit's OTT debut it was, and it was very much hyped at that point in time. Your
Mhm.
character left a very big imprint, and you've done some really good work over the years. But somehow, sometimes, I guess as actors, even though you don't necessarily work for the result, and I know for sure from the responses that you've given me in this interview and the previous one as well, that you are all about the art. You're all about the character and understanding perspectives and finding that middle ground. But do you somehow feel that, you know, you kind of wish there was that extra sense of commercial viability or that extra sense of getting that that opportunity which really completely breaks the floodgates? Do you feel there, do you have any such regrets, do you have any such emotions at all, or is this just something which sounds very exciting for a conversation? What where do you stand on that?
It's a great question, man. I think about these things sometimes. I don't know. I feel I right now, of course, I'm just inclined towards playing good characters, and it's okay for me to build an audience slowly. I don't that has never been my wish key. I do one film and I'm, oh my god, I become a star and then everyone's after me. That is and truly in times like today, I don't know if one wants to be famous. I feel the famous people are very weak in terms of they can say, what they can share. I think the world will get after them immediately if they say anything that they truly feel. And I don't know if I want to be in that position. I like talking my heart out. I love it, and I hope I can do that for a longer time. I uh, uh, I truly love the fact that I've been given such characters that I've got up until now, and what I've done with them. Yes, I wish I could be more on set. I could be in more films, more shows, play more characters. I would. I mean, I did 170 days of shooting last year. I, I would be happy to do 200 or 300 days of shooting next year. I would love that. And but that all these things have so many other factors that define. I mean, for an actor, you need a director, you need a producer, you need a writer. You need all of these people to come on board to then get an opportunity. So all of that is there, but just to get that opportunity or get more opportunities, do I shift my core? Do I move away from who I am? I think I'll lose out more than what I'll gain. I'll probably be rich. I'll probably have a lot of fans, but I might just be unhappy.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and
Very
I don't know if
optimistic. I think you're living that Fame Game Wala life again, as you were describing this answer to me.
no, because I have friends who are very famous. I who are doing great because of course you spend enough time in the city, you get to meet a
Of
lot of
course.
them. I see them. I I see what's happening, and some of them have figured it out and how beautiful that is. But man, I don't know. I don't want to. These things will happen on their own when they have to happen. I just
Mm.
know about my work. Know I'm diligent towards it. I love acting and I keep at it. And if some one of the characters find commercial success, how beautiful that would be. I would love to have a very large audience at some point, but it has to happen through the process that I'm following, which is to give into the characters and to the scripts, not to think about the audience first and then act. I'll act first and then the audience will think.
Think what I do love about you, and I said this last time as well, is that you're just so, your mind, your thought process is like water. It very much flows. There's no prerequisites, there's no set idea कि, "अच्छा, yeah, you know what you want, you know what you need to do, and that's about it." How things change, how things shift, you're someone who adapts that so beautifully. And honestly, I really do see you as a lambe race ka ghoda for sure, from the acting department. And you are definitely someone who I think has a lot of potential to do even more brilliant work. I mean, you've done great work already, and you're gonna do even more better. So I'm very much
Thank
looking
you.
forward to seeing how things pan out, man.
Yes, and I promise to keep coming back to you and we keep discussing.
Yes, it'll be fun. Oh, I
Yes.
love that. I absolutely love that. But look, Lakshmi, thank you so much for such yet another wonderful, wholesome chat. It's always so great to catch up with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Anuj.
Thank
See
you.
you.